4-8 Exponents and Division, Part 2. Our objective today is to simplify expressions with zero and negative exponents and to evaluate exponential expressions. Raising a quotient to a power. For every non-zero number, a and b, and integer n, then a over b to the nth power is equal to a to the nth power over b to the nth power. In other words, just like before, everything in parentheses gets that exponent. So some examples would be if I have 1 over x, that quantity to the fourth power, then it would be 1 to the fourth power, x to the fourth power, which would just be equal to 1 over x to the fourth. If I have the quantity x over y to the second power raised to the third power, then everything is to the third power. So we would have x to the 1 times 3, y to the 2 times 3, which gives us x to the third over y to the sixth. Remember, when exponents are separated by parentheses, you multiply the exponents. We learned that in 2 lessons ago. Kind of want you to look at the pattern and predict what's going to happen. So if you have 3 to the third power, that means 3 times 3 times 3. If you divide by 3, you're basically going to cancel out 3's. That gives you 3 times 3, which is 3 to the second. If you divide by 3 again, you're going to cancel out 3's, and you get 3 to the first. What happens if you divide by 3 again? Well, 3 divided by 3 is 1. So this goes back to what I was talking about earlier. Anything to the 0 power is 1. So if the exponent is 0, you always get 1. It doesn't matter what it is. But what happens if I divide by 3 again? Well, as you notice, our exponents are decreasing, so what's smaller than 0? Well, we're going to end up with 1/3, and our exponent would be -1. If you divide by 3 again, that's 1/3 divided by 1/3. That is 1/9, which would be 3 to the negative second. And that's 1/3 divided by 1, or times 1/3 times 1/3. And we get a -3 here. So for every non-zero number a and integer n, a to the negative n is equal to 1 over a to the n. Examples: if I have 5 to the negative fourth, that would be 1 over 5 to the fourth, which we could simplify as 1 over 625. If I have -8 to the negative second, that would be 1 over -8 to the second. -8 times -8 would give me 1 over 64. If I have f to the negative third, then that's just 1 over f to the third. So we put a 1 on the top. The base will stay the same. It's going to go down at the bottom with the exponent, but the exponent's going to go from a negative to a positive. Would you try these two, please? Okay, so the first thing you should have done for number 1 is put 1 on top, and then we have 4 to the positive 2, or 4 squared, which will simplify to 1 over 16. Number 2, we could rewrite that using positive exponents. We could rewrite that as 1 over 8 to the fourth, which, if you want to use a calculator on this one, I don't blame you. That would give me 1 over 4,096. Would you try these two, please? Go ahead and pause the video and rewrite them. Should just take you a moment or two. So for number 3, we have a to the negative sixth. We're going to write that always over 1 over a to the positive sixth. And for number 4, b to the negative fifth would be 1 over b to the fifth. Gets a little more complicated here, so I'll walk you through. If you want to try them, I think that would be great, but these get a little bit tough and can be a little confusing. So I have m to the positive second, n to the negative second. rewrite that negative or n to the negative second using positive exponents. We like positive exponents. We don't really care for negatives if we don't have to. So I'm going to leave the m squared alone, and I'm going to rewrite that n to the negative second as 1 over n squared. Multiply those together. I could rewrite that basically as m squared over 1 times 1 over n squared. You don't have to rewrite that, but you should at least be thinking that in your head. Multiply straight across, we get m squared over n squared. Number 6, the quantity negative 3x to the third raised to the negative second. Remember, we're going to change that to a positive exponent. So I could rewrite it as 1 over negative 3x to the third, raised to the second. Everything gets taken to the second power, so I've got negative 3 to the second power, x to the third to the second power, which will give me 1 over 9x to the sixth. Okay, so for number 7, we've got the quantity xy to the negative first. We're going to rewrite that using positive exponents. That's basically 1 over xy to the first, which you don't really need that first power, so it's just 1 over xy. Number 8. If you're not careful, you can easily make a mistake on this one. That 7 doesn't go with the negative 3, so it stays, it's not going to go get a 1 put over it, so it stays as 7. I have 1 over x to the third. You're going to multiply, you can change that 7 into an improper fraction, multiply straight across, you get 7 over x to the third power. Here's a fun one. Try it. If you get it wrong, it's okay, but see if you can do it. So we'll start off by changing that into a positive exponent. Everything inside is going to be squared. So I'll have negative 11 to the second power, x to the third to the second power, y to the second power. Simplify that out, and you get 121, and then we have 3 times 2 gives us x to the sixth, and then our y squared. Try number 10. Not sure where number 11 is. Hopefully it'll pop up here in a moment. So, and this gets a little confusing. So we'll write it as 1 over 4/5 squared. Okay. So 4/5 squared means 4/5 times 4/5, which gives us 16 over 25. So what that's saying is 1 divided by 16 over 25. Well, when you divide by a fraction, you flip it over and multiply. Multiply, we get 25 over 16, which simplifies to 1 and 9/16. A little bit complicated there. Here's another one. Can get a little bit confusing. It's basically the same problem though. So we have 1 over x squared over y squared raised to the second, which will mean I'll have 1 over x to the fourth over y to the fourth. That means 1 divided by x to the fourth over y to the fourth. Dividing by a fraction, we flip it over, and there's our answer. If you don't understand, I get you. These are tough ones, but do the best you can. Write these down. Give them a shot. And that's it for today's lesson. If you have questions, make sure you write them down or be prepared to ask them tomorrow. And that's it. Thank you very much.